Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. For anyone who's new, I'm Delaney, and today's video is about a very important topic, and as you can tell from the title, that is Black Lives Matter. And I wanted to do this video because over on Instagram, I was able to show my solidarity and share a ton of resources just based on the way that platform is formatted. So I took a week-long mute to represent my solidarity, and I amplified Black voices during that time instead of my own, and I shared resources. So if you are looking for resources on ways to learn, educate yourself, unlearn, listen to people from the Black community, I have shared some over there on my solidarity highlight, but I also wanted to create something on this platform because I understand that I might have different audiences, and I wanted to reach all of you and show my support for this movement. And I also just wanted to make a little bit of a twist of a resource for you guys over here in a long format video. So today's video is dedicated to that, and I just wanted to share my stance on this and say that Black lives absolutely do matter, and they have always mattered, and they will always matter. And it is our responsibility as a society to create a reality that reflects that truth. So this is so important, and we need to honor and protect and respect and value and love our Black community, because it is obviously a community filled with people who are smart, people who are brilliant, people with amazing ideas, amazing leaders, people with huge hearts, people with so much joy to give. I mean, there's just so much value in this amazing group of people, and we need to create a world that represents that. It's a collective effort that we all need to be a part of, and some things that I've learned from my journey on becoming a better advocate for this movement is we need to take actionable steps. So that means signing petitions, that means voting for the right representation and the right policies to reflect that reality. That means representing the Black community in all spaces, so the media, the workplace, roles of leadership. That means standing up for the Black community in hard everyday situations that you will absolutely come across in your lifetime. That means speaking up, that means educating people, that means protecting the Black community and standing up for them and fighting for their equality and their justice. So this is so important. It is a lifelong journey that we will never arrive, so to speak, at. And we just need to continue to understand better, to listen, to read, just to lend ourselves to the learning process of becoming better at this, and not to focus on performance or perfectionism along the way, but rather just to focus on really evolving into a better person and doing the right thing. And as I mentioned, creating a reality that reflects the truth that Black lives absolutely, of course, 100% do matter. So that's what today's video is about. And I just quickly wanted to share a tiny bit of my insight with you guys, but this video is really not about me and my experience. And so instead, I am going to have my dear friend Shaughnessy answer a couple of questions that you guys asked her. And I will preface that by saying, she is a Black woman living in America. Of course, she cannot speak on behalf of the entire Black community, just like I can't speak on the entire behalf of the white community, but I wanted to share her unique perspective. I really value her opinion. She has a beautiful attitude. She has been so kind to me as long as I've known her. We've never actually met in real life, but we've chatted on the internet, as I do with a lot of my friends these days, for a while, and she's always been so sweet to me, and I really, really appreciate her taking the time to do this. She obviously doesn't owe it to us, but it is so generous and so helpful, and it's kind of just going to be like a little Q&A of questions from the white community, I would say, to someone from the Black community. So just an interesting little resource for you guys that I hope you can find helpful, and I'm sure you will appreciate her kind soul and her perspective and all of her advice and experiences herself. So I will leave all of her info down below. You guys can obviously follow her, and you should, because she is a ray of sunshine. And I will also say all of the AdSense from this video will be going to the Black Lives Matter chapter in Shaughnessy's hometown, which I believe her sister is the president of, and that only seemed fitting for where the proceeds from this video will be going. So if you can, please don't skip through the ads on this, and it will push more money to their chapter that they can use to continue to fight for this justice. Other than that, I'm just gonna let Shaughnessy take over and answer your guys' questions.
Hello you guys, my name is Shaughnessy Delaney. I appreciate you so much for having me be a part of this video, but I also appreciate you guys just for wanting to listen and learn. It's so important right now. I just want to say that I am a Black woman, but I don't speak for all the Black community. Everyone has their own views and thoughts because we're all individual people, but I'll do my best to provide some insight for you guys in this video. I think that texting and sending a text and calling your friends is probably the best way to show them that you care. When you reach out, just let them know that you're just there for whatever they need, whether it's a shoulder to cry on, or just a listening ear, or just let them know like what you've been learning. I've been loving to hear that from my friends as well. Just knowing that they're actually fully supporting the cause is so, so important. The second question is, what are some tips on being an ally moving forward? And I would say 3 things. 1, continue to educate yourself, because you can never truly align with something or really advocate for something if you don't know what you're advocating for. So just really dive deep into the podcasts, the books, movies, and things like that. 2, keep conversation open and keep it going. I have loved having so much conversation with people over this past like week or so, but honestly, I want this conversation to be normal. So just continue that. And 3, get involved with an organization in your community that specifically helps Black people. One, the N-word should never be used by anyone who is not Black, whether that's in a song, whether that's, if you're repeating what someone else said, it should never be used. But I think you guys probably are already aware of that. And so 2, I would say something that kind of makes me think a little differently and is a little frustrating is if I hear someone give me a compliment, but it's almost in the form of a question. And so example would be if someone said, "Wow, your hair is so soft." Or if they say, "Wow, you speak so well," things like that. It almost leads me to believe that they thought differently about Black people initially, but that I'm changing their viewpoint. And that is something that kind of just sticks out to me, because not all Black people are the same. So yeah, I think that is just something to remember. The next question was, as a fashion or beauty or influencer, what are some ways that you can continue with this moving forward? And it makes me think of the body positivity movement that kind of started, and how it's now kind of incorporated into everything we do. I know if I were to wear a swimsuit, sometimes I feel a little self-conscious, and so I might go to my stories or my feed and kind of talk about my feelings and thoughts around that. And I think that that's exactly how it should be going forward, talking about these racial issues. If you're learning things in books or podcasts, movies, if you're having tough conversations with friends, I really think that sharing all of that experience with other people is what's going to help you continue to be an ally moving forward. The next question was, is it offensive to bring up race with Black people, or is it considered progressive? I would definitely say that I would encourage the conversation about race. I think it's so important. You cannot really break down barriers for something that you don't talk about. And so I think that keeping all lines of conversation open is so important, as long as it's of course respectful and kind. But yeah, I think that it's definitely something that should continue, and I would love to see more of. The Black Lives Matter movement is a great organization to follow. They were founded in 2013, and they're actually a nonprofit, so great organization. They're doing great work. But also, if you have a local chapter, I know that we have one in the city that I'm in, and we're a pretty small area. So yeah, that's a great organization to follow. And also, Michelle Obama is probably my favorite Black leader. She just has such a well-rounded upbringing, but also has, you know, a position where she was really elevated into the limelight and had to kind of see how the world works from a different lens. And so I loved reading her book Becoming. So yeah, those are two, you know, an organization and a Black leader to kind of really look to. 1619 is a really good podcast. Movies, God, there's so many. But for television series, Dear White People, so good. It's a group of Black people who go to an Ivy League, so you can kind of see, you know, college age students that are kind of navigating a white world. And then for movies, the Khalif Browder story is a really good documentary. It's about a Black man who police thought that he stole a backpack. He didn't actually steal it. They put him into jail, but while he was waiting to even have a trial, he actually was sent to Rikers, and he was there in solitary confinement for 2 years. They found out he didn't actually steal the backpack, and he ended up getting released, but not without having a ton of mental issues from just being in solitary confinement for so long, and then he ended up committing suicide. So very sad story, but I think it's one that's really important to hear. I also am going to go through like 10 quick movies, like really fast. Detroit on Hulu, Crash on Amazon Prime, Khalif Browder story is actually on Netflix. Ruby Bridges is on Disney Plus. The Life and Death of Sandra Bland, that's on Hulu or HBO. Fruitvale Station, that's on Netflix. Loving on Amazon Prime Video. The 13th on Netflix, The Hate U Give on Hulu, and When They See Us is on Netflix. And then books, so many, but The Hate U Give, the autobiography of Malcolm X, and The New Jim Crow are probably the best books that I could recommend, like, for you to read if you haven't already. I would say 2 tips. One, just continue to educate yourself. And I know I've said that already, but it's so important, and I cannot stress that enough. You'll hear from so many different people, their thoughts, and a lot of those people might not have actually educated themselves on statistics or experiences from people or studies that are being done. And so if you educate yourself on that, you can kind of enlighten them versus just spreading information and passing around people's thoughts. You can actually have real data. But 2, just go with your gut. You'll hear a lot of people say things that might not sound accurate, and just go with your gut. And if you feel like what they're saying isn't accurate, then, you know, dig a little deeper and figure out why you feel that way. You know, do more research in books or podcasts or movies or experiences, just to kind of get a well-rounded picture. But those are probably the 2 like best ways to guide yourself through this journey. Another question was a pretty big one. Can I help you guys understand racial appropriation no-nos? This is a hard one because I feel like everyone has their like wit's end, and every Black person, their wit's end is different. So there's some things that might bother me that might not bother someone else, or some things that won't bother me that will bother someone else. But I personally just try for myself, when I try to think of other cultures, if I feel that for some reason that it might offend someone, I just don't do it. Whether it's a Halloween costume, whether it is a party, if I feel like someone might get offended, I just don't do it. It's not really worth to me potentially offending someone because of something that I'm doing for my own entertainment or fun. I just don't think it's worth it. So that's kind of what helps me make sure that I'm not appropriating another culture, and I'm kind of sticking to my own. And that's like kind of my guiding force in that. I hope that's helpful. The next question was how to make more Black friends. And personally, I feel for myself when I go somewhere and there's only one other Black person, I almost always gravitate towards them, just because I know that if we're at a big event and we're the only two, most of the time people don't really come up to us. You know, at networking events, you know, things like that, very rarely do people just come up to chat with me. Usually I go up to them or I go up to other groups. So if you're in a group setting, just go up to the Black person that's there, talk to them. If you feel a little uncomfortable, just kind of sit with that and recognize and think on why that might be, and then, you know, just kind of try to formulate a real and true relationship that way. It is hard to just make friends in general, but I feel like the more willing you are to be like comfortable outside of, the more willing you are to just do things that you're not necessarily fully comfortable in, I think that will help you make the most friends no matter what. Another question was how to make Black people feel comfortable, valued, and respected in group settings. Now, this is a really good question. I'm going to kind of lead with a story. When I was younger, I remember I went to a sleepover, and I live in a predominantly white area, and I went to a sleepover, and while we were there, all the girls wanted to braid each other's hair. Now, all of them are white, and I am obviously not. And so, like, we're really little, and we all get into this little train, and I remember no one wanted to braid my hair. And so I somehow ended up on the end of the train, and then after, like, I was finished, I was assuming that the person in the front would come do my hair. They didn't, and then no one else wanted to do my hair, and I remember asking, like, do any of you guys want to braid my hair? And no one did. So I remember going home feeling upset and, you know, asking my mom why didn't anyone want to braid my hair, you know, and I felt alienated in that situation because I was being excluded out of something that I really wanted to do and something that was really fun. And that happens all the time in situations where people aren't fully comfortable to do a Black person's hair, or they're not maybe sure what type of makeup a Black person uses, and so they choose just to stick doing their friend's makeup. Just many times that would happen throughout life. And so any situation, any event, just make sure that if it's something that you're doing with a group, make sure that all people are included, and that will be the best way to kind of show respect to your Black friends. The next question was, are there any exemplary white allies that you guys can look to? Delaney's one of them. She does a great job of providing information just to help you guys learn. But I will say that listening to the voices of Black people is so important, and I hope that that will always be at the forefront of everyone's mind. I know when I go to look for guidance, I typically look to other Black people who have experienced similar things, because any person can, you know, better, I'm going to use this example because I feel like it's relatable, but I feel like, you know, if you had a man who wanted to learn about the feminist movement or wanted to learn how to be more of an advocate for women, and then they went to a man and said, hey, like, teach me how to be an advocate for women. Like, I want to be a feminist. Like, teach me. I feel like women would be like, hey, there's a lot of us, like, just ask us. You know, so I feel like it's great for white people to be allies, and I think that they can be a great source of information, but I feel like if you have the option, definitely look to other Black leaders for getting information. The last question was 3 actionable items that you can focus on going forward being an ally. And I know I already talked about education, I talked about being open to conversation, and I talked about being connected to a organization that helps people in the Black community. So I'll add 3 more. The one I'll say is to intervene. If you see that someone is being mean to someone or berating someone on social media because of the color of their skin, or if you see something happening in public, or if you just have a feeling that that police officer isn't going to be kind to that person they pulled over, just intervene. You know, be there as a support, be there as someone who wants to truly assist if there's any difficulty. I think that's something that's really important going forward. The second thing is to donate. There's so many organizations that are doing great work, and I see so often that Black people are constantly giving to Black organizations that help Black people, but you don't see people that are not Black giving to those same organizations as often. So I just encourage you guys to donate your money, donate your time, donate. And the third thing is to welcome discomfort. I think that's important because it helps you know what bias you might have or what things you need to grow in. Example, if you're in the mall and you see a group of Black people walking towards you, does that make you uncomfortable? If a Black person were to, stay over your house for a sleepover and they were to sleep in your bed and they're like one of your good friends, obviously, like, does that make you uncomfortable? Or if you are babysitting a Black child versus a white child, does that make you uncomfortable? Thinking about things that make you uncomfortable in regards to Black people, and then kind of sitting on that and thinking, why does that make me uncomfortable? And then doing that over and over and over again. Opening yourself up to that discomfort is the only way that you can kind of step past that discomfort, and then hopefully drop any bias that you might have towards someone or any fear that you might have about something.
That is it for today's video. I will leave Shaughnessy's handle and everything if you guys would like to follow her. And I will also leave some links for actionable steps below as well. And I encourage all of you to continue to seek out information and learn from whichever resources really work for you and speak to you. This is incredibly important work that we will do for our entire lifetimes. And I'm just so grateful for Shaughnessy and other people in the Black community who have taken the time to have dialogue with me and who have taken the time to educate and lend their experiences and perspective and advice and everything to us. It's really, really helpful in this journey of us learning to become better advocates and fight for a world where the Black Lives Matter truth is reflected in the reality, as I've been saying. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in my next video, and please go be good humans, go be kind, go be loving, go be peaceful, go do the right thing, okay? Just be freaking nice, okay? Love you guys.